All right, what's up, everybody? Brian, is this the fourth time I've interviewed you for the YouTube channel, but I think this is our second strategic market update. Is that right? Number two?
I think so. It could be three. I don't, you know, I
Yeah.
always
Well,
look for,
I'm going to
I
go
always
with
look, but I'm not counting. How's that?
yeah. No, I'm always looking forward to it too, and I really got a lot of great feedback, from both executives in the industry, top producers. I mean, I had people at all levels of the mortgage industry tell me how much they really enjoy this. So I'm excited that thank you for making the commitment to every month you and I jumping on Zoom. I'm in Dallas, Texas today, so it's like no matter where we're at, we'll figure out how to get on Zoom and bring leadership to the Mortgage Coach Trust Engine community. So thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so not going to do a long intro, Brian, because mainly most people know who the man is. But for anyone who's new to the industry and don't know who this man is, once upon a time, many years ago, back in the dinosaur days, Brian, I got that from you. The woolly mammoth, back in the woolly mammoth days. Yeah, Brian was literally, if not the number one loan officer in America, he was one of the absolute top producers in America. Probably was number one. So think like Sean Bedoshi today. Like Brian was doing insane volume many years ago, and then he go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know if I put myself in Sean's league. The industry's evolved some, but I did a few loans, so let's leave it at that. So
yeah, I did a few loans, and then has risen the ranks as an executive. Has probably managed more leaders in the mortgage industry than most people. He's developed a lot of the leaders. There's a number of CEOs that were on Brian's team over the years, and today he's consulting. So a lot of the companies that are buying companies, Brian is consulting. A lot of the companies that are selling, Brian is consulting, and he's become a great personal friend of myself. And he has agreed to come into this community once a month and just like, hey guys, this is what I'm seeing. While there may be 100 different data points in the market, like what's Brian watching, and then we'll talk a little bit about, hey, what's coming? What do we think next month's going to look like? So Brian, anything you want to say before we just kind of go through a review of some of the biggest economic markers and things that you're watching in the market today?
yeah, well, first of all, I always thank you, Dave, for doing this. I enjoy doing it, and I appreciate doing it with you and your team. And so, look, I probably the only, and it's nothing I can announce in terms of names, but actually, literally today, I just got off a call where we're signing another M&A deal with a large private equity backed home builder buying a mortgage company. And so to your point, consolidation and acquisition and M&A continues unabated. And I actually have 3 new deals that have come in just since the last time we talked, a little less than a month ago.
Yeah, so, no, it's still moving strong. Consolidation in the mortgage industry is happening. I was hoping rates would have started to come down a little bit more by this time, and still hope for lower rates as the year goes on. But what are some of the most important economic factors you're watching, and any visibility on how this year is going to roll out?
Yeah, look, I a little bit shamelessly plug my newsletter that we put out every week. That if you guys always put this up as part of this, but if people want to subscribe, it's free. I think it's I don't write it, I publish it, but it's got a great set of insight in terms of data to be paying attention to each week. And clearly, to your point, Dave, I think the industry got a little bit of a dead cat bounce here following November and December, where it looked like rates were going to come down and had come down materially. And then starting the early part of January and into February, and now recently, we've really seen rates back up some. And, I'm sitting here today, I think I just looked before we got on the call, the 10-year is at 4.29 and change. We were at 4.12 yesterday morning. So, we've seen some deterioration that came out of the producer price index. If you take the February jobs report that was reported last Friday, you take the consumer price index that was reported this Tuesday this week, and you take the producer price index that was reported yesterday and the 10-year Treasury auction, and you put them all together, there were a few mitigating pieces of news buried in the details of each of those reports. As an example, the PPI, or the wholesale index that came out yesterday, came out 2 times what the expected level was. So it came out at 0.6 versus 0.3, and caused some concern. Actually, interestingly enough, the market didn't react immediately until it started kind of peeling the onion back a little bit. But so inflation came out hotter than expected. That's the bad news. The good news, if there's good news, this is kind of perverse good news. Retail sales came in less than expected. A variety of other numbers buried in that report came in less than expected. Consumer spending came in slower than expected. Auto sales came in slower than expected. And food prices, which I think are a very significant piece for every American, actually came in flat, zero inflation for, I think, the first month in some time, which is obviously a very positive thing, not just for what you and I do for a living, but just Americans in general, to not see food prices continue to go up. So all that said, what we started the year hearing news about perhaps a rate cut in March, another one in May, 6 of them this year. All of that's off the table. Clearly, March is not going to happen. May is not likely to happen. The current thinking is now the earliest might be July. Maybe it's 3, maybe it's 2, but actually, and I think I may have mentioned this last month, Dave, and I'll shorten this up a little bit, but if not, forgive me, I may have mentioned it in a speech I gave earlier this month, but I think there's a 20% chance of a rate increase based on the last 3 or 4 financial reports that we've seen. It seems clear, and I don't think, look, 1 month doesn't make a trend, 2 months doesn't make a trend, but 2 months also isn't, an exception, right, to the process. And it seems like as inflation has come down rapidly in the last year, it's a little bit plateaued now. And somebody described it this morning as like last mile, getting from 3 or 3.5% inflation rate down to 2 or below 2 that the Fed has put out as its target seems to be harder. That last little bit seems to be harder. Job growth is strong. The economy is arguably strong. The real estate segment, we actually saw some listings come back into the market. There's no shortage of demand for housing. On the buy side, there's a shortage of homes for sale. That's a separate problem. And so the economy, the job market, other things remain strong. And the Fed is looking for those things to moderate before they begin to cut. So all this to say, I think there's a 20% chance of a rate increase before we see a rate decrease. That's only 1 in 5, so it's pretty good odds that we'll not see it. At the same time, I don't think we see materially lower rates likely until mid or maybe the second half of this year. And then I've been saying this for quite some time. I think 2025 is really the better. And that's, it's frustrating, I'm sure, for everybody in the industry, but it looks like we're a little bit stuck at higher for longer. I posted an article today on my LinkedIn site. Once the number came out, a little analysis around it, and it's had a ton of views because I just think people are beginning to grasp, look, this isn't going to fix. And I can tell you how I see it. Companies that we had approached for sale as a target for a buyer late last year and earlier this year, and they waved us off and said, no, I think we survived. I think we're going to be fine. I had one this morning. I was on the phone at 4:30 this morning, my time, with someone who does what I do on the East Coast. And they represent a buyer who we've been trying to see if this company's in play. The CEO capitulated yesterday and decided, okay, it's time. And so I'm seeing more and more of that, where people are realizing this is not going to get easier, materially easier, anytime in the next couple of months. So I think it's going to be a challenge. So long-winded answer, forgive me for that, but that's kind of the totality of what I'm seeing in the market and kind of the output that I'm seeing as well.
Cool. Well, thank you for your perspective on the data that's impacting interest rates, the market as a whole. I want everyone to hear, you mentioned his LinkedIn. there's really a number of great leaders in the mortgage industry that are delivering real value on social media and LinkedIn. And Brian is right at the top of that. Highly recommend, regardless of whether you're an executive in the mortgage business, branch manager, an originator, you should follow this man and consider him a news source in mortgage. Also want to remind everybody, we've got the Rate Watch app. It's red today. That means rates didn't get better today. Just a reminder, this is just a great resource. Not only do we follow mortgage-backed securities, have an incredible analysis, but we also built the Optimal Blue index into it. So it's just a great app for you to have. Make sure you've downloaded that. If you're a mortgage coach, that's part of our services. Download the Rate Watch app. Also, typically, when I go to the App Store, it's always among one of the top 20 mortgage apps. Both Mortgage Coach apps are usually among the top 20 apps. If you go to Android or iOS, put in mortgage. I can't remember a time where we weren't in the top 25, and we're usually in the top 20. So make sure you download that. So Brian, I've got two topics. One is around comp, and I interview a lot of the best producers in the country, and they all subscribe to this concept that you can't do a lot of business doing low volume. The way to win in this market is to do big volume, and doing a couple loans a month, 1 or 2 loans a month is not the right career. And I'm seeing loan officers, lower their comp, and I think the industry average out there is like 75 to 120 basis points. Obviously there are markets, where I've heard that it's 150 or 170 on the high side, 60 on the low side. But I do think mortgage professionals, you guys should start self-selecting and lowering your comp. And the way I lead people around this, and I want to hear your thoughts on that, is that first of all, are you tracking your conversion rates? How many credit reports do you run versus how many apps and loans do you close? And then 2, concessions. And if you are not, again, it's a local thing, like there's not one number nationwide, but if you are not converting at a high level and you're giving concessions at a high level, your comp's too high. You need to make adjustments. And if you want to build a business that survives in good times and bad times, this is just the way the game is played going forward. And while there are probably there are good times ahead, there are bad times ahead. Like, we're in the mortgage business. We have good times, we have bad times. And we should all, whether you're a loan officer or whether you're in the C-suite, you should be building a mortgage company or a mortgage practice that wins and is profitable in good times and bad times. So you want to tackle that and give us the Brian Hale philosophy on loan officer comp and how to win in good times and bad times?
You want me to talk about loan officer comp? I got to catch a flight, Dave. I got to run. I got to go.
I know. I know.
It's like the third rail, right? It's just, be very careful around this piece.
Maybe I should have warned you before you got on this call. I was going to go there.
Fine. First of all, you're dead on. Let me just start there. You're just dead on, right?
So 100%. Like, if it was on social media and you give me 100% on that,
I give you like a 112, right, in there. So
sweet.
Yeah. So first of all, something you said kind of in your comments that I just would pull out, which is thinking of yourself as a standalone mortgage company. And that's true whether you're a banker, whether you're a mortgage banker, whether you're a mortgage broker. If you're an originator, if you do loans for a living, you should be thinking and understanding your business as a standalone brand and a standalone business. And that includes things like calculating your conversion rates. Are you profitable? What's going on? What's your percentage of price exceptions? What kind of buyers are you attracting? What's your average FICO? A host of things that any company would want to know about itself. If you're an originator, you should know about it. You know this, David. I'm really passionate around a variety of things in the business. And one of them, if you're an originator, if you're in this business, be a professional. Be a professional. And that means acting as a professional. And part of that is recognizing your own responsibility to educate yourself, to act as a professional, to represent the industry well and represent yourself. And a part of that is everything you just talked about, which is know actually how your business runs and how you fit into whatever company you may be working with today, right? So start there. Secondly, I've never, and look, you started appropriately so by referencing that woolly mammoths walked the face of the earth when I originated loans. So I'll self-identify as a dinosaur. But I've never subscribed to the do fewer loans, make more money per loan philosophy in this business, because every time then margins get squished, you're toast, right? Because that's just not going to hold up. You said 75 to 120 or whatever. I would say the 75 is closer to the average for bank originators. The 120 is probably closer to where I see independent mortgage banking originators averaging, give or take, 110, 130, somewhere in that range. And then oftentimes in the brokerage community, it can either be way lower or way higher, depending on the market, the product, and a variety of other things. But all that to say, if you're not thinking about your comp, and secondly, you're not thinking about building your database, it's very hard to make money on a loan you don't get. For you, for your company, and it's very hard to get a referral from a loan you don't get. Very hard to get a second home loan, to get a refinance from a loan you don't get. And so if I was an originator today, I would want to have as many satisfied customers in my database as I could ever have and stay in touch with them constantly. And I know you have a variety of strategies and tools to help people do that, but that to me would be rule one. And I would be looking for referrals out of every single one of those customers on an ongoing basis, either of themselves or their kids or their friends or their coworkers, whatever. And so the concept of doing fewer and fewer loans and trying to optimize income off those fewer loans, I think long-term is a failed strategy. If you're in it for the short haul, maybe it's a different answer. Do what you want to do. If you're in for the long haul and you've been originating for 10 years or 20 years, and you don't have thousands of people in your database, I just don't understand how you're running your business. And maybe like I said, maybe I'm the dinosaur, but I don't get it. And so part of that is adjusting your comp, which may well then adjust the pricing strategy within your organization and how you fit in, is really critical. Let me just put one admonition in there. I think some of these strategies that we see all over the industry today of adjusting comp by loan based on a purported lead source. Was this a corporate lead? Was this an internet lead? Was this a consumer direct lead? Was this a self-gen lead? Was this something other lead? Where it's true, I think it's perfectly fine. Where what I'm seeing is in a lot of companies, it's simply not true. People originate a loan from a realtor, normal source. The customer finds a better deal in the middle of the process, comes back to the originator, and the originator goes, you know what? I think you were an internet lead. Boom, down, better price, and then my comp gets adjusted with it. I can just tell you, I think the CFPB is coming. I think state regulators are coming. They're onto this. They figured this out. And like a lot of things in our industry, Dave, and you and I have talked about this in the past, I think our industry is just not good about one thing. We find something that is an innovation and we like it, and then we tend to bastardize it, do it 10 million more times. You see this legislation coming out on trigger leads and other kinds of things. That's because an otherwise good idea got bastardized and overdone, right? And it's frustrating customers. This comp by source, if it's done legitimately, I think that's one thing. If it's done where you're just kind of making stuff up, I think you're running an immense risk. God bless you if you do it. Maybe you never get caught, but I think somebody's going to get stung here. So suffice to say, you can adjust and manage your comp, or I think the industry is going to do it for you. Because margins are not returning to the days that they were just a year or two or three ago, anytime soon. Cost, every piece of data, Dave, I don't know if you've seen different data, but every piece of data I've seen, cost to originate a mortgage loan, simply never been higher. And so you've got revenue getting compressed, the cost of origination equal or higher, squeeze in the middle. You simply cannot sustain a business model where the salesperson is making way more money than the stockholder or the company who's putting up their capital and risking everything. You can do it for a while, but it's not sustainable, and that's what we're seeing. We're seeing 100,000 originators leave the industry in the last 18 months. We're seeing companies leave the industry. We're seeing huge acquisitions and mergers, and put whatever term you want. It's consolidation. And so I think smart originators are looking around and saying, how do I position myself well in the market to optimize my opportunity to get transactions, build relationships, swim upstream to the realtor, the builder, or whatever that source is, figure out how we lock those in for more referrals. And I think comp is a big part of that decision-making process. And look, I've never given a paycheck back in my life either, so I get it. Everybody wants to optimize their earnings, and God bless you. But to the degree that it's degrading your ability to build your referral network and your customer base and the future, then I think you're making a mistake. So I don't know if that answers your question. It's probably way long-winded answer to your question, Dave, but
no, it's great. No, it's a great answer, and I think it's an important part of building a mortgage practice, and for all the leaders on this call, a mortgage company that doesn't just survive, but survives and thrives in good weather and in bad weather. And we're coming out of bad weather, and we still have bad weather, but we will have good weather ahead, and we will have bad weather ahead. And I do think for every originator listening to this, I love the advice you made. You gotta manage your business like it's a business. And so what's your conversion? Are you among the highest converters in your marketplace? And that's not impossible to find out. Like, do you even know what your conversion is? And how are your concessions within your company and within your local area? And if you are not among the highest converters, then you don't have a bulletproof modern mortgage platform, in my opinion. And then two, I loved how you led into database. At the end of the day, guys, if you play the database game right, especially if you're a new loan officer listening to this can be the best business on the planet if you are building a database full of 5-star review clients that love you, and 5-star review prospects that maybe they couldn't qualify, or the time wasn't right, but you're building that database. You're monitoring it with Trust Engine, whether you're using kind of, I don't want to call them old school, but trigger alerts still work, and they probably always work, but that's going to change. Or new school with our Buyer Intelligence platform, you've got to monitor your database, and you got to water that garden. Do your annual reviews. If you hunt and farm, this business is incredible. And by the way, I'm going to transition to another question and topic. I interviewed a top producing branch manager as a kick-ass branch in Cincinnati, Ohio. His name is Ryan Kiefer. I think we either posted that on our YouTube channel today, or it'll hit tomorrow. And he's super smart and focused on first-time home buyers. But he mentioned a niche that I haven't heard a lot of conversation about, because I'm all about there's riches and niches. And he talked about first-time sellers. And he talked about how, he's got a whole strategy in his market where he's collaborating with realtors. They're identifying first-time sellers, and they're going to them and say, hey, you know what? In this market, you can sell in a really hot market, first-time seller. And then you know what? You can buy. It's almost like a dual market. The market is different in that first-time home buyer. And I remember I've interviewed Larry Kendall, the author of Ninja Selling. I don't know. Do you know who Larry Kendall is of Ninja Selling?
Oh, he is. Yep.
Yeah, he actually teaches something called dual markets. Look for dual markets. And I really think we're in a dual market. And I was thinking, and I'm going to start looking for other loan officers doing this, but that's really super smart. Like, have a killer first-time home buyer strategy, and have a very well thought out killer, how do we go to the market, partner with realtors, and target first-time sellers with strategies. And what are your thoughts on that? And by the way, do you have any data on first-time sellers? Like, what percentage of the people listing right now? Let's help me find some data on that.
Yeah,
But
look, I think some of the services might, like an Ingenious or one of those guys might have data that they could mine for you on that. But here's my view. I might, and certainly I never argue with the speaker, but I might suggest
that's okay.
it's not
Bring
just,
it.
No, but I think it's not just first-time sellers. I think the real central thought in there is sellers, right? I think whether you're a first-time seller, second-time seller, or you've bought 14 properties through your life, people are clearly hung up around this, rate lock-in concept, right? Where I've got a low interest rate, therefore I can't sell my house because I'll never be able to afford to buy another one, or I don't want to, double my mortgage rate, or whatever the case may be. And I think there's 4 or 5 strategies that you could talk to a seller about for somebody who really wants to change, really wants to move, maybe needs to move because of the growth of their family, for whatever combination of reasons. They want to get into a better school system for their kids, whatever the issue is. And to your point, if it was me, I'd be partnering with realtors in the market. And again, you and I have talked about this like 10 times, it feels. I'd be partnering with realtors who actually list and sell real estate, as opposed to the very large percentage of realtors who are in real estate, but don't actually sell real estate because they're just not that great at it, right? For whatever combination of reasons. But there's clearly the top 10 or 15% of realtors in America sell the vast majority of real estate. And so I would find one of those people in my market, again, using data to find them and identifying what kind of, what's their sales price range, what's their geo, what farm are they working, and then look to leverage and partner with that person to go out and do a seller Q&A session. Whether you do it online, whether you do it face-to-face with some, punch and cookies or whatever it is, I'd be talking to sellers because, as we all know, 89% of sellers are simultaneously buyers. So you may have a buyer, you may have a seller who then becomes a buyer, who then likes what you did and how you helped them think about it, and they refer you to somebody at work, or they refer you to their kid or their brother or their sister. To me, that's vertical marketing, right? I mean, that's swimming upstream, looking for opportunities. And I've always, in my entire life, whether I was selling loans, selling joint ventures, I always wanted to have as big of a target as I could. And I wanted to stand as close to the target as I could and fire away at the target. I had a way better shot at hitting the target. So it's about, building out that target in multiple ways with multiple opportunities. And it's been my experience, Dave, that sometimes what your thought was in terms of how your outcome is going to be isn't that at all, but it gives you either other thoughts or other outcomes that are just as good. Action,
Right on.
action,
Well, I love it, Brian. Well, I want to try to keep this close to 30 minutes. I've got one more question. I want to tee it up though. I want to show our 10X webpage. I mean, we created this for producing branch managers. Like, it's the hardest job in the business, and it's the most important job because, one, you're a producer, and in many cases you're a top producer, and you're responsible for the success, or you should be responsible if you're a servant leader, for the success of your other loan officers. So I just want to remind you guys, that we have this sales training as available for you. This is an interview I did with an incredible VP of sales who leads a group in the Columbus, Ohio market that's averaging over 5 loans per loan officer. And he's literally like, how is he turning loan officers into modern mortgage advisors? And you get his playbook. So check it out. Also, we've got links to learning how to use MortgageCoach, signing up for our live training. This is for you guys, branch managers. If you don't have MortgageCoach, you can sign up here. If you don't have Trust Engine, you can get a demo if you're an executive here. But Brian, here's my last question. And let me put it this way. If let's just say everyone who is watching this right now was a producing branch manager, and you were the head of production of the, this room of branch managers, and you had, just a couple minutes of advice for them right now, what is your advice to any producing branch manager? And just speak directly to that audience as a closing thought in this market.
Thank you. So first of all, to your point, as your setup, whether I was talking to producing branch managers, non-producing branch managers, mid-level sales managers, national heads of production, and I've started doing this now with all of my clients, is asking this really awkward and uncomfortable question. Do you know who your salespeople are calling on and why? And is it data-driven, or is it a blind monkey throwing 3 darts at a spinning dartboard, hoping for a great outcome? Right? They were driving down the road one day and they saw an open house sign. They turned in, right? Was that how they decided to work with that agent? Or is it data driven? Is it data driven to the point that the likelihood of success of the individual originator, in my opinion, goes up markedly to the degree that they call on realtors who sell significant amounts of real estate, to the degree that they're calling on the bottom 50% of realtors in America. Statistically, that group accounts for less than 8% of all sales. So even if you had the best price, you've got killer fulfillment, you're a good looking guy or gal, right? You got everything working for you. You got a great gift to gab. You got the schmooze, you got the database, you got everything working. And you show up and you call on realtors who don't actually sell real estate, you got a 0 chance of building an annuitant business. So to me, it starts with who are you calling on and why? And it may not just be realtors. You can have an alternate origination strategy, right? I have a friend that I work with who, she teaches originators on, digital originations and marketing and those kinds of things. And she doesn't do it in lieu of, in other words, give up everything you're doing now. She does it in addition to simply broadening the top of the funnel, right? Using terminology I know you're familiar with. And so do you know what and how your salespeople are doing their business and why? And if you don't, I would argue shame on you. Because your ability to impact results, if you know those things and you do a checkup with your salesperson and you walk through the referral sources and you talk about why and you talk about data, and is it kind of the blind squirrel finds an occasional nut approach? Or is it a very strategic idea? And are they doing something unique that you can then convey to the rest of your originators in your group, right? Can you spread good best practices in that process? And so I can tell you, Dave, the number of sales leaders I ask this question to, it's almost always an awkward answer of no, not really, right? And hey, look, as long as they're doing $1 million a month, I don't really care. Or 2 million, pick a number, right? Well, I think that's a misguided view of the world, because to the degree that those agents decide to get out of business because of this commission lawsuit thing, or they decide that it's just too hard, or they decide to retire, or they decide a million different reasons to get out, your business is dying. And I have a simple view that if you're not growing your business is dying slowly, right? You're just not aware of it. And so I think that single thing, data, purposeful selling, relationship building with the right people who drive real estate on a day in and day out basis, who, by the way, are professionals in their business, just like you're trying to be a professional in your business. And there's this, you've heard, I'm sure, the old saying that, successful people like to do business with successful people. I think that's a bunch of garbage. I think the real saying is that people who get up early, go to bed late, and pay a dear price in their profession like to do business with people who get up early, go to bed late, and pay a dear price in their profession. And so if you can find those matches of personality, tone, and approach, I think you can build a wonderful business. And whether the business is booming or not booming, like now, you have a sustainable business that you can make a good living in this business. Then in good times, you're going to kill it. You're going to kill it.
Oh, so Brian, I love these conversations. We talked about, key market indicators. We got some opinion on you as to, what interest rates are going to do and how this year is going to play out from an interest rate perspective. We got your take on loan officer comp. We got your take on some strategies to approach realtors. And then closing out, we just got some great advice for every branch manager or, leader sales leaders in the industry. So anyone listening to this, please, we're going to be doing this monthly. If you have questions, put those down below. Also down below, there'll be a link to sign up for Brian's newsletter. It's an awesome newsletter. Make sure you sign up for it. Follow this guy on LinkedIn. If you're not using the Mortgage Coach Rate Watch app, make sure or the Trust Engine Rate Watch app, make sure that you download that. It's on our website. Ask your manager how to get it. Brian, I appreciate you, brother. Is there anything you didn't say that you want to make sure you say as we wrap up today's call?
No, I don't think so, Dave. Look, I thank you, and I appreciate our friendship and our relationship on this. I always enjoy getting a chance to share some thoughts. You're always well prepared with thoughtful questions. So, look, I think, I just offer my best wishes to everybody in the business. I think this is going to be a transitional year. It's going to be a tough year, but I think the people who survive and thrive this year have an unbelievably bright future in this business, because there will be a day where volumes will be up materially. Much of your competition may well, unfortunately, have left the business, and you'll have a great opportunity. So I see this as a building block year of building your business, thinking about it as a business, and being professional about your approach. So I appreciate that, Dave, and I would add back, to the degree that people aren't, Trust Engine partners of yours or Mortgage Coach, I think people should look. It's always great. I've been a shameful borrower of tools through the years from a variety of folks that I've had an opportunity to encounter. And Dave, you have a lot of great tools, so people should take a hard look at those. So,
yeah, no, thank you for that. I'm looking for the post. Someone I also follow is Ron Stowers, great client of ours. He's a chief strategy officer for Homeowners Financial Group. I don't see his post. Oh, here it is. Survivors benefits. Make sure you go check out this post. He made a post where he really kind of made a case for the loan officers' survivor benefits, and he really broke down the amount of volume, the amount of loan officers that are left, and he made a case that there's a bigger piece of the pie for everybody who's left today, and that piece of pie is only going to get bigger and bigger. So go check out Ron Stowers on Instagram today. We'll put a link to that down below. I just realized he posted that. Go check it out, guys. My man, anyone, make sure you're following our YouTube channel. Brian, I appreciate you, brother. Have a great day, and hopefully you guys got value, and please comment down below and follow all the links. Take care, everybody.